Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about what happens when your ex feels the loss. So, it's really important to understand where your ex is at and what they go through in a breakup, okay? You get so overwhelmed with how you feel. It's so easy to get consumed with how you're feeling in the breakup that you're not seeing what's going on with your ex. And of course, that's one of the things that we can always help you with in a coaching, because we see those nuances and we really see those things because, we're used to dealing with it and talking about it every day. So what am I talking about here? After the breakup, okay, we want your ex to get to the place where they're starting to feel like they can lose you, okay? Obviously, that's not gonna happen at first because you've likely reinforced to them how you feel, what you want. I wanna repair this, I love you. You've shown them grand gestures, you've begged, you've pleaded. So there's no fear of losing you at that point, okay? They're not gonna feel the loss because there is no loss to be had. Now, of course, they're not talking to you as much or seeing you as much or whatever's going on with that, but the loss, that real deep, painful loss that you're feeling, they're not experiencing that yet, okay? Because they don't really think that you're moving on. They don't really think that you want to move on, or they're not afraid that they couldn't get you back if they change their mind. In fact, many of us have said and done things that tell them the exact opposite. You've told them how many times you want to repair this, and you've stopped by their house, you've contacted their friends and family. So they're not experiencing anything that's going to really have them feel it deep and viscerally. That loss of connection isn't really there because ultimately they still feel in total control at this point, okay? Now, there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that you can do things to make your ex feel the loss. The bad news is that it often takes a lot of emotional self-control and discipline to do that, okay? So I highly recommend you stay away from alcohol and your phone because it often leads to people messing up, okay? You have to do your very best to not contact your ex and make mistakes if you want them to get to the place where you're at, right? Because, think about how you feel, right? How are you feeling after this breakup? You're incredibly anxious. You're sad. You're hurt. You're scared. You're obsessing about them. You can't stop thinking about them. And it makes you feel like you're out of control in your own body. In fact, you're going through a lot of physical symptoms. You're sick to your stomach. You have diarrhea. You can't think. You're like in a fog. You can't sleep. Okay? They're not experiencing most of those symptoms because that's just what happens with the dumper. So we want them to have similar experiences, right? Because you want them to see what it's like without you. Okay? You feel what it's like to be without them, but we want them to feel that too. Now, ideally, we want to do this in a healthy way. We're not trying to be malicious here. I'm not wanting you to do this to be cruel or malicious to them, but it's only fair for them to feel the loss too, right? It's not fair for one person to be devastated and the other person to be kind of okay with it. You want them to get to a place where they are now experiencing the symptoms that you're having. But what do you have to do? Well, every instinct inside of you is to reconnect with them and talk with them, show them how much you care, handwritten letters, clean slate messages, good reminder texts, all kinds of nonsense that I've heard. But that is nowhere near as powerful as leaving somebody alone, okay? You've got to stop reaching out. This is what we consider no contact, okay? We don't consider no contact ignoring your ex or anything like that. We consider it no reaching out. And quite honestly, I would just put out no reaching out videos but it wouldn't reach as many people. I have to call them no contact, and then I have to explain what we mean by no contact. So what we mean is you just simply leave them alone and allow them to reach out to you when they want to contact you, okay? Because ultimately, what we're wanting is for your ex to feel that loss of connection. Think about it. Think about how you feel when you're connected to somebody. It's one of the most powerful things human beings have. It makes us feel safe. It makes us feel loved. It makes us feel alive. It's a great feeling. When you really feel somebody understands you, you really appreciate that person, that whether it's a friend or a family member or a partner. But we really value the people that make an effort to connect with us and understand us. So I am recommending, in most cases, at least in a general video, that you don't make an effort to connect with them, okay? You want them to realize that their decision means that you aren't going to reach out to them anymore. You're not going to make an effort to connect with them or keep them in your life or keep you in their life anymore. But the thing is, you really want them to wonder about it, okay? What do I mean? Well, it's going to be far more powerful and effective for them to feel it and to kind of think about it if they're not sure what's going on, if they're confused what's going on with you. So sometimes people will ask me on a call, should I tell them that I'm going no contact? And, I can't think of any situations off the top of my head where I would say yes. I might if it was a case-by-case situation, but generally I say no. You don't want to reach out to somebody to tell them I'm not going to contact you anymore. And I definitely don't want you to break no contact to reach out and say that. I definitely don't want you to reach out and say, hey, I'm not going to contact you anymore. You don't do that, okay? It's more powerful if they're thinking about it, they can't figure it out, they're just kind of ruminating over it like kind of you are. And so that kind of gives you some power back that they start to think, well, what's going on with them? What's going on with you? And then they'll have to kind of learn to live without you. They have to feel those consequences of their decision of missing you and all the support that you brought and love that they brought and all the great qualities that you have. And, they may try and keep you as a friend. And some coaches will say, yeah, I'd be friends with your ex. And then you try and use that to manipulate them. But I also feel like that's weak behavior. Now, there might be certain situations where I might go along with it because sometimes when an ex is explaining what a friend means, it can be different. Like there are certain situations where I'm going to say, no, I would definitely not agree to those terms. And there are certain other ones where I'm like, oh, okay, I would agree to that. That sounds reasonable. But that's a case-by-case situation. But ultimately, for the most part, I don't want you to be their buddy, their pal, their therapist, or their backup plan. All right? Nothing like that. So you don't want to keep giving them attention. All right? Validating them, that makes them feel good. They don't feel as scared or as alone, and the breakup isn't as difficult. You don't want to keep telling them, you're so great. I think you're so wonderful. I think you're so beautiful. While they're probably, or they may be talking to other people. Not everybody is going to be talking to somebody else. But if they are, it's easier for them to move forward knowing they're getting all this attention from you and trying to seek somebody that they may think is quote unquote better. Now, I'm not saying they are better, but in their mind, they may think, well, this person is better for me. They're a better fit for me. So I don't want you to do anything to keep validating them and letting them think that they just get all this attention from you, but they don't have to work for you anymore. And you're still no real loss for them, okay? We're trying to get them to feel the loss. So I definitely don't want you to do something like tell them that you're going to wait for them. That's important. I know sometimes you guys will say it before you find the channel. And no, I probably wouldn't tell you to reach out to them to tell them you're, not going to wait and that you've changed your mind. Now, there could be nuances to certain situations where you might be able to say it depending upon the kind of contact you're having with that person, or if it comes up or something like that comes up. But I don't want you to reach out to say, hey, by the way, I'm not going to reach out to you anymore. Or, hey, I'm going to wait for you. Those are things that are no-nos. Stay away from them, okay? Because they're going to go off to explore the world, and it's a lot easier knowing they have you. It's harder, scarier, more difficult, more challenging to go off and explore if they can kind of keep you in the background as like a breadcrumb or something like that. Now, I'm not going to go into the specifics of breadcrumbing in this particular video, but for the most part, when we talk about exes reaching out, it's usually after months you haven't heard from them, not somebody consistently breadcrumbing you. Exploring the world is always dangerous for human beings, okay? Think back to when you're a kid. Let's say you're a year and a half, 2 years old. What do? What do kids do at that age? They're with their parents in the room, but what do? They wander off, they play, they don't go too far, and then they come back. It's kind of hardwired into us. You see that? Even children do it inherently. They go off, check things out, have a good time, then feel scary. They want to make sure they're safe. They haven't lost people, right? They haven't lost their clan, their group, their parents, and so they go back. And so you don't want them to feel like they can do that, like keep you as backup, like a parent, like they can go off explore the world and they come back, but you're just a backup. I don't want you to be a backup or validate them in that way, right? I don't want you to reassure them you can be okay going on with your life and I'll be here if you need me, because that gives them some power and they don't feel the loss. It's also important to understand, and this is hard to hear, but it's true, the breakup is easier for them. Okay? The breakup is easier for the dumper in most cases. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier. Breaking up with somebody isn't easy to do. Okay? You care about somebody, you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to make them sad, you feel guilty. It's not an easy thing, and you're oftentimes not even sure about the decision. But when that person is making the decision, it's a lot easier when you're making a decision than when somebody's making the decision for you. In this case, they're making the decision and the decision is being made for you. So it's a lot easier for them because they're making the decision. It's a lot harder for you because somebody's making the decision for you. Okay? Because when you have somebody make a decision for you, you kind of feel powerless. Right? Think about that feeling of somebody's deciding and you have to go along with it in some way, shape, or form. And, that's an uncomfortable, challenging feeling because it's like things aren't really going the way you want. You're having to go along with it. Now, I'm not saying you have to go along with certain things like, I'm going to go along with being their friend or something like that. I'm just saying it's like, what do? You can't fight the breakup, right? So you kind of have to accept it. But I'm going to give you an example because I think this will help you understand what I mean. Imagine that you were unhappy at a job. Just picture being at a place. You don't like it. You have a bunch of complaints about it. You're not too happy and you're thinking about leaving for a while. Now, on some level, you're going to take that place for granted because you still have it, but you're kind of looking for a new job, something better for you. And maybe that's even what you're planning. I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to find something. I'm just here in this situation till something else comes along. Now imagine that if you walked into work and your boss fires you. Think about it. Think about how different that feels. In that moment, are you thinking, I was going to quit anyway? Probably not. You're probably going to feel like, oh my gosh, I wasn't ready for this. Okay? You're going to be scared. Now you're going to have to worry about bills. You didn't have a new job lined up. You're going to be anxious about the future. You're going to have to really think things. And that job is going to seem a lot better to you than it did before, because your boss made the decision for you. And now it's harder for you, even though you were in a situation where you weren't too happy. I just wanted to use that example to give you some perspective on different sides of things, okay? So what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to get you to flip things around, give you some power back, right? So how do we give you power back? Well, you can see that when your ex makes this decision, it's not too difficult for them like it is for you. But if you stop reaching out, now they're not feeling like they've made the decision so much anymore. Now they're kind of feeling like, oh, now I might not have a chance to get this job back, or you back in this example, right? So now it gives you some power back, because they start to wonder what's going on and where you're at, what you're doing. And they start to kind of ruminate like you've been ruminating about your side of things and what's going on with you. So watch what kind of happens here. If you think about what goes on with you or the dumpy, right? You're scared. You're worried you're never going to see the person again. You feel like you're dying. You're hurt. You feel rejected. It's very painful for your ego on a deep level. You're shocked that they could do it. They could live without you. Your self-esteem is impacted. You don't feel very special or important or attractive. Maybe you're comparing how you look versus this new person looks, and you're kind of in disbelief that they could do these things to you. Well, that's what we want them to go through, because when they start to feel your loss, they start to experience those things too. But you have to leave them alone and give them the breakup. That way, in time, those things start to happen to them. Now, here's the great thing. Most of you guys are doing the creative healing course or the workbooks, and you're working really hard on yourselves, getting to a great place. So you're preparing yourself for things to turn around. They're not working like you are. Most dumpers are not working very hard on themselves. Not nearly as hard as the people that have been dumped. That's one of the great things about a breakup, actually, is because it's a situation where the person who is in the weaker position, really hurting, can use it to transform their life. And not only that, but to get power back, not only with their romantic relationships, but with their friends and their family, and their self-confidence, where they believe in themselves and they work through their attachment issues. But the dumper's not likely going to do that. And you'll see that oftentimes when your ex starts reaching out to you again, they'll be very anxious and they'll start acting like somebody that's been dumped, emotionally out of control. They will double, triple text you. They'll get really anxious about things. It's very interesting to watch a dynamic shift, and it does. But they have to have that time to feel that in isolation away from you, right? Where you're not making an effort to connect with them, to sit there with their thoughts and wonder if it was really a mistake, to start kind of fantasizing about where you're at and what you're doing if you've met somebody better than them. And they are going to start to think about that, imagining that you found somebody else, like you've been worrying about that. And if they did start dating somebody new and it didn't work out, now they're really going to be like, oh my gosh, I thought it was going to be great and amazing, and I gave up this person, and now maybe I'm going to be alone forever. And they're thinking about you, and you're going to find somebody else, right? So this time gives them the opportunity to kind of try and figure things out and, you know, go over all these different scenarios in their head and think about, well, now I haven't heard from you in so long, the dumpy, and now they're thinking, I haven't heard from this person in so long. I think maybe they've moved on. And they will start to want to repair the connection because they see you're not trying to repair the connection. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't act like an adult, because if you're going to turn this around, you will have to act like an adult, but you don't want to give away your power. You want them to be trying to work it out with you as well, okay? They are going to see that you aren't doing anything to repair this connection, this disrupted connection, and it's on them to bridge the gap. And they have to make an effort. Now, a lot of times, they dip the toe in the pool with the indirect, direct approach. They're afraid of rejection too. I know it seems crazy. And we're thinking, wait, what? How are they feeling like I'm going to reject them? I've been desperate and begging and pleading, and all I want is them back. But like I said, you've been getting that power back behind the scenes, and now they're afraid of rejection. And so they dip the toe in the pool, and they often say something like, so I miss the cat, which is probably the number one thing that I see. Don't know why, very odd, but there's often little things like that that always leave you confused. So your ex is starting to feel the loss. They don't know what you're feeling now. They have no idea if you're moving on. They aren't as confident in their decision, in what they've decided, or in themselves. They're starting to feel insecure and anxious, right? And now the loss feels more real to them. Like there's a real chance that they could reach out to you and you won't want them back. Now you may want them back, but they don't know that, okay? And so they're going to do things to try and reconnect with you. But you've got to show self-respect when these things happen. You don't want to be eager. You don't want to be desperate. You've got to truly work on your attachment issues every day. Because if you don't, what will happen is your ex will say and do challenging things, things that are hurtful, things that are confusing, and that will trigger you, and you will lose emotional self-control, and that will kill attraction, okay? Confidence is extremely attractive, and they will be a lot more attracted to you if you exhibit attractive behavior, confident behavior. Confident behavior is like a magnet, and people are just naturally drawn to it. Just like they're repelled by insecure behavior, like when you're trying to reach out to them and tell them how much you care and how much you mean to them. What happens? They often get angry. Sometimes they get mean and insult you because you haven't respected their decision. And in a way, it kind of looks like you don't respect yourself or that you believe in yourself. But if you start to act confidently, they're not going to like lash out at you and insult you and tell you to leave them alone, because you have been leaving them alone and you have been showing this confidence. And you know, that's what I'm saying, is you got to continue to act in a really self-assured way where you're not looking eager and desperate, because then it will just hurt the attraction again. So as you can see, feelings change. Feelings will change for you as you work on yourself through the breakup. Feelings will change for them as they are in no contact and things don't go the way they expected them to go, or they're more difficult and they really start to miss you and they realize how much they love you. And that happens, and the more confident you become, the more attracted they're going to be to you. And if they don't come back, in some cases they don't, that's okay, because you will feel confident to attract new awesome people into your life, and you're going to be a lot more likely to blow them away and to attract these people that you thought you could never get before. But when you really believe in yourself and you work through those issues, you will, okay? So stay motivated, understand feelings change. Just because your ex is someplace right now in the situation doesn't mean it won't change over time. So you want to stay motivated regardless of what your ex is saying and doing in the present moment. Okay, so hopefully this has been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get my help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. You could also check out my creative healing course or my workbooks on the website. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and I will talk with you soon.